This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, Aaron Zamzow here with the Better Every Shift podcast. With me, as always, Janelle Fosquet, Janelle, have you recovered from FDIC?
Oh, I'm getting there. It takes like a solid week, right, to recover from FDIC?
Well, especially when you had to follow me around and had me kind of go with you. Today, we're going to talk about the best of the FDIC. We'll recap a little bit. We'll talk about some of the common themes that we saw there, our greatest moments, our greatest hits, I guess is what you could say. It was great to be back. We were talking that this is the first time in 4 years you have been back to a full-fledged big conference like this. The numbers are in on FDIC, and I think the biggest thing to talk about is 52,000 attendees, 800 exhibitors, 250 education sessions. This seems to be the biggest show since COVID.
Oh, far and away, for sure. And for the record, I have not confirmed the 52,000. That is the number I have heard. And, in past years at FDIC, when on that final day, when they make the announcement over the loudspeaker, there have been times I've thought, really? Was it really 35,000 people? Was it really that? Okay, 52, I could totally believe it this year because it just felt like everything was packed everywhere you went, lines into the hallways where people are lining up trying to get into sessions. Exhibit hall was packed. Lucas Oil was pretty packed. They had a different setup this year with Lucas Oil, which I think helped get some more folks over there. But yeah, I honestly was not surprised by that number. It is astounding. It's a huge number, by
Yeah.
far the biggest, at least on U.S. soil. I'm not sure how big it gets over in Germany at the big show there, but
Yeah, Intershuts does get fairly large.
yeah,
I think one thing you learned, and we'll talk about this probably, is that you need different shoes. But because I actually it is spread out. It's at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's at there's exhibit hall, convention center, and one time I looked down at my steps, my pedometers. I had over 22,000 steps in one of the days.
dang.
So yeah, make sure you bring your running shoes. But I think if someone's listening and they haven't had the opportunity to go to FDIC or a big conference or even a little conference, uh, the takeaway from this, as you're listening, is make plans to do so. A lot of the conversations that I had, around just the fire service, and this is the first thing I think when people say when they say, "Hey, how was FDIC?" My first thought is it's great to see everybody back out again and excited to interact and learn and work on improving. I mean, that's one of the main reasons we have these big shows is
Mhm.
people attend these conferences or these education sessions and they get fired up to you like how I use that, by the way, no pun intended, but to learn and to be better, which is the whole emphasis of this podcast. What's the what do you say when people ask you how the show went?
Oh, just to reiterate just how massive it was. But yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I hadn't been to a show since Fire Rescue International in 2019, which was, late in the year, and then COVID happened. And so I think this was the first time. I mean, people have went to the show last year, FDIC last year, but this was the first year back where it really felt like in force. People are hungry to get back out there, to reconnect, to learn something. And you just see it in the numbers and you saw it in the hallways. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, people interacting again, people, again, comparing notes. This actually I was at a conference locally here in where I live in Wisconsin, the Sawdust Fire Expo, and I saw some people from that expo back down at FDIC again, which was again great. It's just when you surround yourself and put yourself in some of these environments, it's contagious. You really start to feel like, hey, okay. you know, when you're back in your own home station or your department, sometimes you can lose a little bit of that fire, and conferences are ways to reignite it. And
Yeah.
it was great to see that was really going on.
So, Aaron, with all the events, all the craziness, everything we saw, what was your favorite special event? There were a lot. So, what stands
Yeah,
out to you?
yeah, it's hard. That's a great question. I normally at these conferences I speak, and this was one of the first where I was kind of the other side and was able to interact more. Uh, Thank you to Fire Rescue One and Lexpol for that opportunity. But and then I also was able to participate in the stair climb event, which was the National Fallen Firefighters Stair Climb event. I've done some work with that organization. I'm very fortunate, but I never have done the stair climb. And this year, I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this." I didn't practice or I didn't train for it, but I kind of I knew what I was up against, and to me, the beginning of that event and just looking around, and as you're walking through Lucas Oil, you're going up the steps and people are coming down, and you start to build this almost like as you keep going, you can see everybody's just starts to get more and more fatigued, but the camaraderie, and so I always remember, A, it was hot up there, and B, just how everybody kind of picked each other up. Didn't matter where you're from. I have to give a shout out to Chief Owen from Victoria, Australia, who was there. He was right in front of me, and we were kind of cheering everyone on. He had a much better accent than I did, so of course people listened to him. But just that'll always vividly play in my mind. I was able to walk for one of our fallen brothers from 9/11, and knew some people who actually knew him, and so that to me will always stand out. What
That's
about you? What's one thing you were all you were having to follow me in most of these cases. What will you remember?
Well, at the risk of sounding like a total imposter, I have to say the stair climb as well. I did not do the stair climb myself in the way that you did, but I did a version of it, which was chasing you around, trying to get video of you and Chief Bayshore, um, amongst others. So, and you were up in the tippy tippy top of Lucas Oil. So it was kind of funny. I was just dodging around trying to, I may have been ducking under some tape and whatnot, going places I probably shouldn't be going in order to capture some of that footage. But it was a really, really powerful event. Everything from the beginning, the speeches at the beginning, and then the bagpipes kicking everything off, and then watching everyone. And I was up there in the stands filming, and people are just crashing around, just taking a break. Like they just needed a time out just to breathe a little bit because it is hard work up there and it was hot up there. And, I really appreciated seeing how many people, even when someone is literally just sitting down taking a breather and people are walking past them, they're just saying, "You got it, brother. Hang in there, brother. You know, take your time." There's no shame in taking a rest during the stair climb. Um, and I also want to give a shout out to you because even though you weren't wearing full turnout gear, you literally ran back to the booth to grab your backpack, which was heavy because you wanted to simulate wearing the pack. And I just kudos to you for wanting to simulate that moment. I thought, that's brotherhood, and that's what I really appreciated the most. That stands out to me. It's just not only you, but everyone there really just cheering each other on and offering support.
Yeah, like I said, I was really kind of surprised. Thank you, by the way, and it was great to be able to do that. Um, again, knowing some people that were impacted, and they were there. There were some members from FDNY that were there on 9/11. As you walked, began your ascent into it. You're shaking hands, and they thanked and they shook the hands. Victor, Chief Sarnacki were there. The leaders of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation were there. Every single person that started got a handshake and got a thank you, and it was a great event. When I started walking, there was an individual who was actually playing the dispatch from 9/11, the
Oh,
actual
wow.
event, and that was very moving, and kind of gives me a little bit of chills. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the takeaway for anyone listening, if you have an opportunity to do it, train for it a little bit, I would recommend, and get some people together from your department and go participate. It's for a great cause, number one, and number two, the other benefits that you'll see, and it's like I said, it's continually fired me up to do another one. So, yeah,
Yeah,
a
and,
great event.
just to put a fine point on that, there are these events all over the country. Lambeau has one of the biggest, right?
Yes.
So, you don't have to wait for FDIC, to do a stair climb. Sign up in your neck of the woods. Great cause.
And if you want sub training for it, I have some ideas on how you can do that. You can reach out to me through the podcast, and I'd be willing to put together a team for Better Every Shift. To be honest, so reach out if you're interested and you want to get your department involved.
Yeah. So, and I want to ask, now there's a lot of climbing, a lot of running around those stairs, but there's also a lot of running around the exhibit hall and just the hallways, getting from classroom to classroom. We're running into people constantly. So, any memorable moments for you running into folks in the hallway? Do you have a favorite hallway run-in moment?
I ran into Chief Waldo, Josh Waldo. You were there, and you just kind of stood back, and you just we talked about it afterwards, but Chief Waldo and I are kindred spirits. I think we have a lot of the same passions and drives, and so I didn't expect to see him. I know he flew in really quickly, and then had to go out, fly out. But I just running into him, thanking him for being on the podcast. If you haven't listened to his episode, I would highly recommend it. And just talking about, we really talked about some of the things that a lot of people aren't going to want to hear, but we talked about the sleep epidemic that's in kind of that's really starting to become more and more prevalent. The data is really starting to push towards that. We talked about some options about what we could do about that, and how that links into our mental health and our general health, and then just I think we both kind of looked around and were smiling about, hey, the fire service is, the camaraderie is there, the fire is there to improve, and it was great just to kind of fire that stuff out with him.
That was a really great moment too, because like you said, I was there and I was kind of standing back in part because I was just like, it's just like watching a tennis match or something, because watching you two go, it was like there was just this force, and all of a sudden you guys were like in an instant solving all the fire service problems. Like, I mean, this was not a stop, quick, casual, hey, how's it going? Great to see you. It was like, all right, how do we solve the sleep deprivation crisis? What do we do about staffing issues? Like, you guys were just getting into it. And I was like, just listening, absorbing, also struggling with, okay, we have to be in an appointment in like 10 minutes, but they
Yeah,
are literally solving problems right here in the hallway, like outside, the main exhibit hall floor. And it was just, it was it was great being a fly on the wall to that conversation, because I was just like, oh my gosh, why do I not have a tape recorder going right now? These two are
yeah,
just going for it.
yeah. We should have recorded it. Well, and you had some great run-ins. Who was
Oh
your
yeah.
kind of great hallway run-in?
Well, the one that comes to mind for me wasn't a hallway per se, but at the NFFF, at the Stop Drop Rock and Roll event, I did see Chief John Oates with the International Public Safety Data Institute, who I've been working with on our What Firefighters Want survey. And that was sort of another moment of like just really getting into it and starting to talk about all sorts of big picture issues. And it was just really great to see him and connect with him about some of the things we've been talking about and seeing in the survey. Some of the stats are frightening, and we're going to be unpacking those. And again, it was just like, you think you're going to see folks and just be like, oh, how's your day going, what's going on, and then like before you know it, you're like deep down a rabbit hole, just getting into really big questions. So it was great to see Chief Oates, and at the event, and so many people. It's just, gosh, we could spend like a whole podcast just talking about hallway run-ins, but
Well,
it was great.
but that's the whole point of these conferences, and I've had numerous conversations with people that I met last year at FDIC, and it's the camaraderie, not just just FDIC. There's Firehouse Expo, and there are like the New York Fire Chiefs conference. I know there's some of the big ones, but and there's also some really great regional ones where the conversations evolve to help the fire service, to help certain departments, or it evolves to, hey, I know so and so, or I just met so and so who's working on this, and we need to talk to them. And we were also able to meet with the FR1 staff, and
Mhm.
the people that allow me to still sit in this seat. And that was, for me, kind of a highlight, just to see, what their vision for what we're doing here is, and to hear the response. I was surprised. I do have to say that we have now more than two listeners, your mom and my mom. I think we're up to like 15, because a couple people said, I'm just kidding, of course, but it was great to have contact with people that are listening to us. And so, you know, it, it it also kind of ignites, hey, I'm trying to be better at this, and trying to you know make a better impact with this kind of medium that we have. And it was
Yeah.
great to get support from the powers that be at FR1. uh, you know
No, I fully back that up. It was interesting because while excuse me, while we know that people are listening, we have stats and things that we see, and we know a lot of people are listening, but we don't always get a ton of feedback, and we don't always know who's listening exactly. And then I can't tell you how many times at the show I'd be talking to someone and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've been watching the podcast. I've been listening to the podcast." And I was, "Really? You're listening?" Like, wow, and I was just very humbled.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you, first of all, for
yes,
listening,
thank
by the
you,
way. Please
everyone.
do. Please spread the word. Yeah, it's been great to try to hit different medians. Like, we're not always talking about fire tech. We're not always talking about leadership. We're just trying to talk about things that happen day to day. We will include those topics, of course, but hopefully just giving people things that will make their day better, make their shift better, make their life better. And to see so many people support that movement was great. And again, it goes back to what this was all about at FDIC. Everybody's trying to utilize that brotherhood, that sisterhood, to stay motivated to be better. And
Yeah.
the great conversations, the great meetings. There was also exhibit hall, which was great to see. You got along into the exhibit hall a little bit more than I did, and I think you have a favorite. What did you like? What was your best swag
Oh,
exhibit booth
favorite.
kind of?
I don't know if I have a favorite so much, but one thing that I keep thinking about is that electric blue uh, carpet at the Drager booth. It was like the bright blue, looks like football field. It was designed to look like a football field. Um, and of course, I've got pictures. I'll put them in the show notes. But it was pretty impressive. I mean, there was like no missing it. So hat
It's
tip to Drager there.
A and I think, oh gosh, it's is it Boy I think Boise State is the
Yes,
co
it is.
is the football
Hmm.
team that has that blue carpet that you always think you gotta adjust your TV.
Exactly.
Um,
You know
you
who
know
you're watching when you see a Boise State
r
football game on TV
right,
for sure.
right. My favorite, I got to see the people from Crackle Magazine, who are just they're crazy, I say they're my crazy Canadian friends, eh? But, they had a pretty fun booth. I know they had Jason Patton there. Jason was all around the show, by the way. I did see him. I wasn't able to play our Barbie Girl walk up song because I happened to come up on him and said hi. So I think those are some of the cool things I'll
Yeah.
remember. There were some very creative exhibits. They had an outdoor part that I remember walking into one day. There's smoke and fire and hose lines going. I was like, this is it, man. This is great. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'll remember on as far as like the exhibit hall and the booths and stuff.
Well, and you got to take part in some of this stuff. So we had you. sacrificing your body in for a few things. So you did the IDEX SAM challenge where they had you basically do a timed course with a traditional manual pump operation versus their SAM system. And then we also had you going into a little room to do your skin cancer check, um, which turned out just fine,
It was good.
fortunately.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about those experiences.
Yeah, and, my experience at some of these shows is a little bit different. So, when we talk about experience these shows, come to them. Look, I went to my very first show 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, and, I was a speaker, and I remember sitting in the speaker room, and I I just introduced myself to, like, at that point, it was Chief Sendelbeck, and then I met Chief Salk, and from there, these friendships grow, and so, if you're at all thinking, "Well, I don't know as many people as Am," like, I honestly I don't know where it evolves, and I get to do these fun events, and you had mentioned, we did the SAM challenge with IDEX, and I also was able to do, a skin cancer screening, and the SAM challenge was basically manual pumping, pulling levers versus their SAM system, which is a computerized, um, apparatus system, which I was kind of floored by. It had sensors on nozzles. You had to push a couple different buttons, and that was about it when it came to pumping. Um, and I've talked to a couple people about it, and they're just like, "Well, what happens if this or if that?" And the IDEX people were like, "We've tested this, and it's pretty accurate." So I think that's coming. It was great to kind of see a glimpse into the future
Right.
with that, and then
Well, and
again,
real
some of
quick, we have the video of that too on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see Aaron running the course, at least a clip of it, check it out at our Flashover TV on YouTube.
Yeah, and it was like, again, it was great. Like, they're saying, "Okay, flow 1 line, open your hydrant, flow a second line, get your pressures," and, the difference was when I was doing it manually, I had to, pull levers a little bit, make sure I had to adjust and take into account hydrant pressure, whereas the SAM system did it all for me. Yeah, you could see that part of the challenge and how different it was and how much easier it was. The second part was a skin cancer screening that was offered free, and that was, to me, one of the cool things. All I did is sign up. It was from Detect Together and Firefighter Cancer Support Network. They offered that and went in. They gave you a really good recap and kind of an educational overview of why it's so important for, especially for first responders. And then literally, she's like, "Well, let's go do this." And it didn't have to go naked or anything, but take your shirt off, go down to your shorts, and she compared. There's a couple spots that I have, since I'm almost 50, and she explained everything, and she's like, "Hey, yeah, your freckles are your freckles, and what you do is compare your freckles to your freckles." And it was great, very educational. I wound up, I think, getting a new friend there.
Yes, and that this is also one of my FDIC award moments. My didn't see that coming award is when you just like fully bear hug Dr. Candler and just thanked her for everything she's doing. She is a dermatologist. She specializes in this. She knows exactly what to look for. She really explained it in a very digestible, easy to understand way. And I just thought that was so touching when you were just like, come here, this like big old bear hug.
Yeah,
And, she's doing amazing work. And I, I think it's great that you showed her that appreciation because that was a great event and great service that they offered at the show.
yeah. I think she said she has done over 4,000 free skin cancer assessments on first responders in the state of Massachusetts, and her goal was to that's where she's from, and she's training. She had 2 medical students there that she's training, and these people are volunteering their time, gave full on skin cream, skin cancers screenings, and they gave sunscreen for free. And that the bit of information was awesome. And so yeah, I couldn't help but give her a little hug and thank her for what she's doing for for us. We gave her a little better every shift challenge coin, and of course, we said we talk about it a little bit. If you have not gotten a skin cancer screening, make sure you do.
Yeah.
Just
And
due to
we'll
the
prob
fact, what's
Oh,
that?
sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say we're gonna have her on the show too. And we do have a clip from your screening so people can see it, and it's not scary. We even have footage of the hug. So
Oh, we do. Okay, good. Yeah. Yep. That was I was a great it was just a great experience, and then again to talk to somebody who, I asked her, I said, "So what are you getting out of this?" She's like, "I just believe that every first responder needs to take this seriously, and so I'm donating my time." And I just thought that was great. So again, one of the other really cool things that you can experience if you go to any one of these conferences, you can look for some of these different kind of uh, options and different seminars, and then there's also events. We had the Stop Drop Rock and Roll event with through the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. What was your favorite song played there, by the way?
oh my gosh, there were so many songs. I'm gonna go with you two, Where the Streets Have No Name. I think that was an early song they played.
And I'll have to go with I can't remember because I was bouncing around and just so excited to talk to everybody. I think that's where I lost you. You just sat down. You're like, I'm done following him around. You can bounce.
I had to bail for a minute. But yeah, I think this is a good segue into the new friends shout out segment of this episode, because I think it's impossible for you to answer this question because you were bouncing around so much. And um, literally, I just have to share this nugget of information real quick. At one point, I'm trying to figure out, where did Sam go? And I come over, you're introducing me to all these folks. We sit down, there's a big group of us. I'm chatting with one of the folks there. And at one point, I just said, "Oh, well, how do you know Aaron?" He's like, "I don't know Aaron. I met him like 5 minutes ago." But of course, in true Aaron format, you had already like forged this bond and were acting like you guys had been fast friends for like, 20 years. I'm like, that's just so Aaron, of course. So yeah, new friends being made everywhere, constantly. And the IEEE event was definitely one of them. So do you have any new friend shout outs you'd like to make?
I
Um,
met, Chief Owen from I mentioned
oh yeah.
earlier at the stair climb was great. I got to talk to a firefighter from Lexington about a save that was made, and I may try to include him on at some point. They happened to make a save with Lexington Fire Department, and so I got just a little overview of how that all went around, and from there was just trying to talk to um, Lieutenant Day about you know what happened, and what you experienced, and it was just for him, it was a thought it was just another routine alarm call, and it turned into making a save. So that was another friend that I made. I don't want to give away too much of that because I'd like to have him tell the story a little bit. So yeah, a lot of new faces, a lot of new friends. Of course, I've messed up everybody's name because that's just what I do. I can't pronounce anybody's name. Because I think it's because I get nervous in my own head. Say, don't mess up this name. Don't mess up this name. How about you? What about you? What's your favorite new face and friend?
Oh, I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Candace Ashby of she's battalion chief with Indianapolis, and I sat in on her session and I spoke to her after the session, which was called Leadership from the Bottom Up. It was a very energetic, powerful session. It really focused on this idea of like, quit complaining and start doing something. You can't just blame the fire chief or the administration for all the woes in your life. You got to take some action yourself, take responsibility and accountability. But yeah, so I spoke to her after the show, and she was one of the folks who actually, when I introduced myself, she was like, "Oh, I listened to the podcast." And I was like, "No way, amazing!" Um, and yeah, so invited her on the show, so watch for her at some point. But we had a good conversation. It was really nice to meet her. And I wrote up a session recap on that if anyone is curious to read some of her highlights from that session.
I think you actually have a new favorite quote from that session, right?
Oh yeah, I did write something down here. If you can't get it together at the firehouse, you won't get it together on scene. I just I just thought that was really great because there's for all the dysfunction that can happen and that can kind of run amok in stations or departments. I mean, she did fully shout out that we've got to put to rest. I believe her exact quote was the snaky, backstabby bullshit that can go down at stations because, you know, this is supposed to be a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and then you've got people throwing each other under the bus. And if you've got that kind of a culture, how on earth do you expect to run an efficient fireground operation? I just thought that was a really good point.
Yeah, I think the one takeaway, I've talked to quite a few people that just, summarize, "Hey, what did you find out about this event or this class?" And just going around and asking about, people who attended what their experiences were. And I think the theme that I got was, twofold. One is we need to get our egos checked at the door. Because I think that can lead to all these other different things. And of course, what the theme of that we've had here on the show is that we need to get uncomfortable in order to grow. And in some cases, those two things go hand in hand.
Mhm.
It might be very, very uncomforting to get rid of that ego and ask questions and take criticisms constructively and ask, informative questions with the fear, maybe I'll sound or look like an idiot. But look, I've made a career on that, and now I got a podcast because I do ask those stupid questions. um, but I really believe that that's the biggest theme, and it's ironic that Dr. Ashby said the same thing, and of course, the whole theme that we've had over the last 12 podcasts, 13, 14, 15 podcasts is again being uncomfortable. Nothing good ever was accomplished from the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so the other question I have for you, because you are normally behind the scenes, and what I mean is that you've been now working for either fire rescue one, firehouse, fire. I mean, you've been in the fire service for almost 20 years writing, and you've pretty much edited some of the biggest names in the fire service. And it was funny to see, like, oh, I haven't met so and so face to face. I've emailed anyone. Like, your Rolodex of members of the fire service, by the way, is pretty impressive because everybody we've met, you're like, oh yeah, I've emailed that person before. I've talked to that person before. And but what was the one that you finally got to meet that you've talked to via video or email before?
Oh my gosh, there are many. One person I got to meet that I had never met, which is insane to me, since we've emailed so much, worked together in various capacities over the years. Actually, Jennifer Williams, she's a senior content specialist with UL's Fire Safety Research Institute, and FSRI does such great work. I've known Steve Kerber, Gavin Horn, Dan Madrikowski, the whole gang over there for a long time, but I don't believe I'd ever met Jennifer Williams, who is really like making the magic happen behind the scenes, just killing it all the time. So it's great to meet her. I also got to connect with Captain Brad French from Dayton, Ohio. He has written some great content for Fire Rescue One, and I ran into him at the Stop Drop Rock and Roll event. Great to see him. yeah, I feel like there's just like too many to name because I feel like so much of our world exists over emails and webinars. And then you finally get to these shows and it's so great. But something like FDIC, part of the problem with how big it is, I mean, I had a list like 20 people deep of folks like try and find or connect with this person at the show. And, I think maybe I saw 5 to 7 of them at some point because everyone's just in so many different places doing so many different things at any given time. And I had a couple people text me and say, like, I've been looking for you at the booth, but you're in the wind. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best to get around. And everyone's in the exact same boat. Every single person has to be at, 12 different sessions or events. So it can be hard to make those connections. But what about you? Did you finally get to meet anyone that you had been dying to meet?
Actually, no, I've met. I, I don't want this to come out the wrong way. I've been able to meet face to face with most of my interactions are on video. I said hi to Jason Patton. Saw Chief Lee, saw Chief Salka, and so it was great to just say hi. I saw Chief Keegan from Illinois Fire Safety Institute, who we
Yeah,
will have on hopefully fairly soon here. There's a great backstory with Chief Keegan and and I won't give that away too much. But for the most part, it was just great to see familiar faces and see so many people, and um, so I will always remember that about this particular FDIC is just the energy was back.
yeah,
And again, there's so many people, my friend Dave, I wasn't able to contact, and um, there, the list is bigger that of people that I didn't see than what I did, but
yeah.
hopefully everybody was able to take something from it, you know. Um,
Well, and on that note, did you have any like missed opportunities at the show where like an event you wished you had gone to but didn't?
I, you know, I wish I would have actually gone one day earlier, just to so I could at least say hi to, we have some listeners. It was be great to always it's always great to connect and see them, and you know so my biggest regret is to not have gone a day earlier. And my in all honesty, it is not easy for me to do what we experienced. I'll be 100% honest. Like, I'm very kind of quiet in a way. Like, um
Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on this.
no,
Can I throw a
well,
red flag?
you can, but it takes a lot of energy to run around and and meet people. And there's times where like I'm not I have I'm not as I'm actually more comfortable just sitting back and being, kind of in the back of the classroom at times. But over the last couple of years, this podcast has helped me do that. And along with some other people in my life who have said, you know, you're good at it. And, I think it goes along with I'm not very comfortable with it yet. And so if it comes across as I am, just know I'm as full of crap as everyone else, and that I'm trying to practice what we preach here and be uncomfortable, be better at greeting people, having conversations, shaking hands, trying to make eye contact.
Yeah,
One of the things I didn't want to do is be in my phone the entire time as I'm talking to someone. And looking back, I think I did fairly well with that. And there were some conversations that I had with people I was in my phone, and I feel bad about that. And so it's just trying to be better and
yeah,
utilizing not only what we learn at the conference, but the interactions we have at the conference to try to make an impact. Because
yeah,
we don't know again when we're ever gonna, right? COVID took a lot from us, and it could easily come back. And so being able to experience these things, I'm very appreciative for this opportunity to be here with you. And, again, thank you to Fire Rescue One. And, for all the people that stopped and said hi, we like what you guys are doing. Appreciate you, because you're motivating me to be better, and hopefully that's going back at you to do the same. But I just had to get that out because I'm exhausted. Like I have to take like about an hour, um, just to kind of to recoup and obviously work out and do some things. But I'm trying to practice what we preach. So apparently it's working, and I appreciate you being there. How about you? Any regrets? Any things that you wanted to see?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, just real quick, I have to say you're speaking my language there because I am an introvert at heart. So, like you said, it's kind of outside my comfort zone all the time to be on, so to speak, and just like the go go go. I'm used to go 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 in my office, but not so much like just chatting with everyone in the world. I love it, but it takes a little extra something for me because it's just not my natural mode. So you're speaking my language there. But it's always so positive afterwards, and it's always such a good experience, and I always come back so energized. Um, but yeah, speaking of the go go go, to your question, one thing that comes to mind is like I was rushing to go out to cover the firefighter challenge, which was happening at the show in the outside area, and I love watching the firefighter challenge. It's just those the toughest 2 minutes in sports. I love it.
Mhm.
It's fun to watch. But at one point, I think I had like ventured away to cover something else that was happening outside, and then I realized I missed that they were interviewing. I could like just barely hear it, so I kind of missed my moment to go watch and clap. But they were interviewing a Ukrainian firefighter who has participated in the challenge, and I could kind of hear the speech he was giving, and it just sounded really amazing and powerful. And so that was like a little missed moment for me. But I it was just such a great experience overall. I feel like I was able to check a lot of boxes and hit a lot of things. I mean, there's probably a million other things I didn't get to see um, that would have been fantastic if I had happened upon them at the right moment. But stars have to align at these events, right? Um, but yeah, it was just great overall.
And a lot of this is what you make of it. And
Mhm.
there are so many different social things that go on at conferences like this, and we actually we partaken or we partook in some of those. But I think the biggest places for growth are just the conversations, the interactions, and of course, the classroom. Anytime you're learning about your profession, the better off you're going to be. And yeah, that's the main thing, which is why we decided to do this particular podcast with kind of our bests and updates, and from FDIC. Again, it doesn't have to be FDIC. It can be any conference, but we're encouraging you to get out there, to learn, to interact, to have conversations, to utilize each other, and get a little fire within yourselves by talking with others. You can again follow Better Every Shift podcast at our YouTube channel, and these shorts are on the YouTube channel of me doing these things. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of you running around the show.
And that can be found at the Fire Rescue One YouTube channel. And then you can also watch Better Every Shift on that particular channel, which I highly recommend. The shorts part, what we're talking about are just 30-second, 60-second clips of me sweating at the at the stair climb, of me getting my skin checked. Apparently, there's a nice little moment of me and the doctor there hugging, thanking her for everything that she does. And so, with that, one more thing, most memorable moment, Janelle?
Memorable moment for me is the stair climb. I was really glad to um, just be a part of that, watching, covering, from the reporter aspect, and just seeing the camaraderie. And it's just a really touching moment, and really proud of everyone who participated in that.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be finishing that. I did meet a woman from Wisconsin, who this was her third stair climb, and along the way, she was by me, and along the way, she took a little rest, and in my head, I just thought she's gonna finish this one. She's gonna finish this one. So I actually went back after I finished and kind of climbed up some more stairs to see, and sure enough,
Oh,
here she came with this big smile on her face. And when she saw me, she just smiled, and I said, "You're gonna finish this today." And she looked great, like, she looked strong, and, so I gave her a little hug, and I remember just, when you finish this event, you get to ring the bell and you salute, the honor guard who stands there the entire time, by the way. It's very impressive. And just seeing her light up a little bit and watching people finish, and I think just, being able to step back a couple times and watching people interact again was something I'll always remember, and hopefully it's something that we can continually experience. And looking forward to our next conference and to next year. And for everyone else listening, by the way, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being um, a support to our movement here. And again, you can follow us at Better Every Shift at firerescue1.com. You can email the show. You can also follow us on the Fire Rescue One YouTube channel. But most importantly, everybody, hopefully you take something from this, and you utilize every single day, every single shift to learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thank you for listening.